been many years since I last got to explore the campus, and of course I'm very honored to have been invited back to speak to you all today. So what am I going to be talking to you about? Well, as you can see, I'll be telling you about my unconventional path, stories from a proud ITE graduate. And yes, I did say stories because I am by no means a professional motivational speaker. In fact, sometimes I think the advice I give people is actually quite bad. So I'm just a regular guy here to tell you 3 stories from my life. Nothing more, very simple, just 3 stories. And what are they? Well, first I'll tell you a bit about my life before ITE and what my state of mind was back then. Then I'll touch on my life during ITE and what changed when I got here. And then I'll tell you briefly about my life after ITE and what am I doing up until now today. And it's my hope that as I tell you these stories, maybe you'll be able to relate to them and you can feel a bit more encouraged for your journey and your road ahead. So let's get started with my life before ITE. What was I doing before coming to College West? Well, this. So I was studying at SEIT. I'm not sure, I think some of you may be familiar with the School of the Arts. I was doing theatre, so things like acting, writing, directing, all that kind of stuff. And it was my dream school because I made so many friends, so many memories during my time there. Put up some pictures so you don't get bored as I talk, but for some context, SEIT is a bit of a different kind of school because it's actually a 6-year program. So after your primary school, if you get into SEIT, you go there for another 6 years. But you only get your official certification at the end of the 6 years. So, it's not an O-level, N-level, anything like that. They have their own sort of system. There's just one small problem for me, which was that I was not doing well in school at all. So even though it's called School of the Arts, you still have to take so-called regular subjects. I'm sure you're familiar, English, mother tongue, biology, history, all that kind of stuff. And this was in addition to whatever art that you picked, which in my case was theatre. So I just could not handle the workload of so many subjects all at once. And year after year, I would fall further and further behind. Until eventually, in my 4th year, I actually did so badly that I was not even allowed to promote. And I had to retain and repeat that year. And so, of course, it's a very big deal. My parents were called down to talk with the principals and the teachers. They had multiple, hour-long discussions. And eventually, my father made the decision, and he decided, enough is enough. And he made the decision to pull me out from SEIT early. And just like that, my time in my dream school came to a very abrupt end. So, of course, I was very sad that I won't be able to continue on with my friends anymore. But I had much more important things to worry about, what do I do now? So my first thought was, okay, I'm going to try to get into a polytechnic. So I went, I did my research, I applied to all the polys in Singapore, and you know what happened? I was rejected by every single one of them. Yeah, can you believe there are 5 polys in Singapore, I think, and none of them wanted me. So, okay, it's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but what other choices did I have? My father suggested doing a private candidate, O-levels or stuff, something like that. But I didn't think this was a very good choice either because SEIT's syllabus is a bit different. I also just didn't think I'll be motivated enough to push through with doing private candidate. So this is a no-go as well. And then my mom came up with the craziest idea of all, and she told me, oh, why not you go and enlist into national service? So I was only 16 years old at the time, and I actually believe you can enlist at that age if you sign some forms and things like that. But I was so terrified and so scared of NS. Why would I want to do it earlier if I could just delay as much as possible? So in summary, to leave my dream school, polys didn't want me, private candidate out of the question, NS is a crazy idea. I just felt like I had no other choices in my life, and it just felt like my whole life was just falling apart in front of me. And there was this big question that was hovering over my head the whole time. And that question was, what am I going to do with my life? My highest qualification was only PSLE. And even if I wanted to go and work, if you see all those jobs in the newspaper or online, they all require you to have, complete your secondary school, which I technically didn't do. So at this point I was, just feeling very demoralized, just felt like I was so useless. And I wasted all my parents' time and money all those years. But one day, my father suddenly suggested something that I had not thought of before. And he told me, why not we try and apply to ITE? And to be honest, I didn't know much about IT at the time. So I spoke with some friends, told them about this idea, discussed with them. And they were very quick to discourage me. They'll say, oh, don't go there, you don't belong there. These are the kind of things that they will tell me. But the more I looked into IT, the more I felt like maybe this is the only place that I would have a chance to prove myself and to redeem myself and to have a second chance. So I bit the bullet despite all the negativity, and I put in my application, and this is my actual application form from the time in November 2015. I took a picture of it back then. As you can see, I really prefer College West because I live quite close by. And I'm really happy to say I managed to get my first choice of course, which was Infocom Technology. So what was the main lesson that I learned during this time in my life? When you think you've hit rock bottom, the only way that you can go is up. So I felt like I just reached the lowest point in my life, but soon I was about to turn things around. So now we come to my life during ITE, and while I said earlier that ITE was the best choice for me, it doesn't mean that I was super excited to come here initially, because I only saw it as like a detour on my way to my true destination, which was poly. As such, I just told myself, I'm going to do the bare minimum when I come here. I only start bothering and putting in effort and working hard once I got to poly. You can even ask the people who knew me at the time. Like the first month of school, I was always trying to lay low, keep a low profile, don't try too hard. But as it turns out, IT and its lecturers had a bit of a different plan for me. So again, I'll put up some more pictures here as I talk. But IT gave me many opportunities that I could have only dreamed about before. So that in the top left, that was my class. We were having a class bonding at some pottery place. And I'm still friends with some of the people in that picture, and some of them are even here today, so thank you guys very much for coming to support me. The top right, I got to visit Chiang Mai in Thailand to do some community service, and it was definitely a very memorable overseas trip for me. The bottom left, I had the chance to join a student council, even became a exco member, which that was what the interview was for. Actually, speaking of which, are there any student councillors here? Just a show of hands, anyone in student council? There's no one in student council? Okay, a couple. I think they need to step up their recruiting a bit more. Yeah. I also had the honor of representing College West in various competitions. So this one was for the Lee Kuan Yew Technology Award. But for me personally, it actually went further than all of this, much further. So I was the valedictorian for my cohort and delivered a speech during my graduation ceremony. Won a few national awards, and I beat out even those from the Poly and JC. So, if you ever hear people saying that ITE can't compete with Poly and JC, now you know that that's not true. All of this was great, but I want to emphasize all these awards and achievements didn't fall from the sky into my lap. There were many obstacles along the way, but I also worked hard and I had a lot of help and support as well. So I had my class mentor, Mr. Tan Yao Kun, who was always very supportive and encouraging, along with Mr. Thomas Chi, Mr. Eric Pang, a whole bunch of other IT lecturers who guided me along the way. I can say without a doubt that I would not have been able to achieve so much if it wasn't for them and the IT system as a whole. And IT really cares for students and wants to see students succeed. So take it from me, someone who has been through it all before. All of you here are in very good hands. So let me just recap some of the ways that IT has changed my life. First, IT gave me my confidence back. As I said earlier, I was feeling very demoralized after what happened in SOTA, but IT made me think, hey, maybe I'm not so useless after all, maybe I can do this. It also opened up many new opportunities for me, such as student council and participating in various competitions. And there's no way I would have been allowed to participate in all these kind of things back in my old school, but IT decided to give me a chance, and I'm always very grateful for that. And lastly, but most importantly, IT made me a self-motivated person. So when I saw that first little bit of success, I was, felt the urge to chase the next one and the next one. That's just something I never experienced before. So the little lesson that I learned during this time in my life is just do what you love and love what you do. So I made the jump from learning about acting to learning about computers. And of course, it's quite a big jump. And don't get me wrong, I'm still interested in drama, but it's more like a hobby to me. And it was only in IT that I realized my true passion is in computers, in infocom, and in helping people using technology. And this passion, which was nurtured here, is something I believe I'm going to be pursuing for the rest of my life. And finally, I'll just briefly touch on my life after ITE. So in April 2018, I went on to study information technology at Ngee Ann Poly, and that picture is from our graduation ceremony. Not long after that, it's time for me to face my fears and go and enlist into NS. That's my parents and my best friends sending me off. And as they say, 2 years very fast one. So before I knew it, I was about to ORD. And that's probably the reason why we're smiling so much in that picture. And most recently, in August 2023, I started school at Singapore Management University, studying information system, and that's a picture from the very first group project I had in uni, and it was an excellent group. And I've been in a lot of group projects, and some of them are truly horrible. So this was a good group. And I'm telling you all this not to show off to you like, oh, look at me, I can make it to poly or uni, because I'm pretty sure all of you here, if you wanted to, you could also do the same as well. The point I'm trying to make is that at each stage of my life after ITE, there have been a whole bunch of new challenges, new obstacles I had to overcome. In poly is trying to get used to the higher workload, more competitive nature. Of course, COVID was a challenge for everyone as well. When enlisting into NS, during BMT, it's very hard for me to forget my civilian lifestyle and then transition over to a more military kind of lifestyle. And even after that, there's still challenges. Like my grandmother passed away only a couple months into my NS, and I wasn't allowed to see her before she passed on. I had a lot of issues with favoritism and bias and all that kind of stuff, not being recognized for the work that I put in. And even in university, I'll be very honest with you guys, I'm not doing as well as I once did. I think I still have a lot of room to improve in uni. And so my final learning point is that there's always going to be another mountain. There will always be a new challenge, a new obstacle that you have to overcome. But the most important thing for me is that I was able to get through it all because of my experience and what I had learned before in ITE. And never once for a moment have I ever regretted coming here, because ITE gave me skills not just in computers and technology, but it also gave me skills for life. And so I want to leave you with this quote from a personal hero of mine, Steve Jobs. And he once said, sometimes life will hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. And I hope all of you will embrace your challenges with resilience and keep pushing forward. So thank you everyone, stay cool, and I wish you all the best in your journey ahead. Thank you.